If we are one, what is the possibility that our current earthly drama and the energetically turbulent gauntlet that we as a species are currently moving through may in fact be tied to long ago ancient memories that hold deeply rooted emotional traumas we may have lived through long before? That we are existing in a kind of ancient reincarnational and experiential do-over here and now, in the hopes of perhaps correcting collective past choices and directions so as to invoke better outcomes this time around. In our last episode, we spoke of the monad, the primordial oneness of all that is, and how we as divine, unique sparks of spiritual awareness are tasked with providing experience within the one as a means of exercising the omniscience of Source itself. But if we are one, what are the choices that we as a species are choosing to make now so as to move us more into an alignment with spiritual oneness and harmonic resonance with the love-centric intention of God Source? How can we take these deep-rooted memories and catalyze them into a clear and consciously aware understanding and call to action that we are all connected, that we understand the spiritual lessons now, and within this understanding, that we are in fact the physical expressions of light and love contained within Source itself? Hi, I'm Daryl T. Johnson, a musician, a teacher, and a QHHT hypnosis practitioner. I'd like to welcome all of you to episode 16 of If We Are One. Hello everyone. It's good to be with you, and I'm really excited about our topic today. In this episode, I want to talk about the fascinating subject of a place known in mythology as Atlantis, and how more and more insights and awakened memories by so many enlightened souls are coming forth to provide evidence that this place, in fact, actually did exist. In the last few years, more and more people are remembering their reincarnation experiences, many of which are rooted in the Atlantean epic, with surprisingly detailed accounts of just what took place there and then, and how this story has a direct connection to what we are currently moving through in this transitional period here on Earth. I myself, as a QHHT hypnosis practitioner, have worked with a number of clients that have, through their subconscious, their higher self, shared accounts of life during this period, and the many wondrous but also horrifying accounts of just what went on during this long ago epoch. So what I want to do first is to give you some historical references as to the origins of this story, and how more and more people now are documenting their remembered experiences, all helping us to remember and identify clear connections between then and now, and how our choices today correlate directly to decisions and outcomes that took place then. Much of our original understanding of Atlantis comes from Plato, an ancient Greek philosopher of classical Athens who is most commonly considered the foundational thinker of the Western philosophical tradition. Plato's tales in Timaeus and Critias, where Atlantis rises through wealth and might only to fall through greed and arrogance, while an idealized ancient Athens, in this case Athens simply being used as an artistic fictional archetype, serves as a symbolic critique of civilizations that let material success erode civic virtue. This foundational contrast mirrors modern world drama by highlighting risks like elite capture, a form of corruption where a small group of powerful individuals benefits from public resources that are intended for the larger population, often leading to inequality and reduced welfare for the majority. Populist fragmentation, which is the division and splintering of political parties and movements that claim to represent the interests of the common people against perceived elites. Ecological hubris, where the excessive confidence and arrogance that humans have in their ability to control and manipulate natural systems and resources often lead to environmental degradation and crisis. And of course, the misuse of advanced technologies, as well as authoritarian control over balanced constitutionalism, which emphasizes the importance of maintaining a fair distribution of power among different branches of government, ensuring that no single entity becomes too powerful. Does that sound at all familiar now? Now, Plato's Atlantis narrative, viewed spiritually as a grand archetypal drama of the soul's journey, reveals how collective human experiences, rise, arrogance, conflict, and potential renewal mirror our individual paths towards enlightenment and reunion with divine source. Again, this epic serves as soul's collective mirror, a cosmic stage where humanity enacts the universal tension between lower impulses, Atlantis' greed, power-seeking, and disconnection, and higher alignment, primeval virtue, moderation, and harmony with divine order. Each soul, as a unique spark of all that is, incarnates into these dramas to experience duality, learn through contrast, and reclaim wholeness. The story teaches that no civilization or individual starts from corruption. The fall comes from forgetting our divine essence amid material illusion, offering the lesson of vigilant self-remembrance. Now, within these core spiritual lessons is hubris in the forgetting of our connection to the One. Atlantis embodies the ego's illusion of separation, where technological or worldly mastery replaces surrender to the greater flow. Souls learn that true power flows from humility and unity consciousness, not domination. This sets up analysis of how Plato's motifs appear in 21st century crises, such as the AI ethics, which correlate to Atlantean crystals, and constitutional decay through authoritarian aggression. Now let's talk about Atlantis from Edgar Cayce's perspective. For those of you who are unfamiliar with this individual, Edgar Cayce was an American clairvoyant in the early to mid 20th century who reported and chronicled an ability to diagnose diseases and recommend treatments for ailments while asleep. He was known as the sleeping prophet. During thousands of transcribed sessions, Cayce would answer questions on a variety of subjects, such as healing, reincarnation, dreams, the afterlife, past lives, nutrition, and future events. one of his more fascinating insights and outflows was on Atlantis, where among the many readings he gives to his clients, he also claimed to have remembered his own reincarnation experiences there as a high priest. According to Casey, Atlantis fell because a long-running spiritual and ethical conflict between two groups, the children of the Law of One and the sons or children of Belial, drove the misuse of powerful technology and natural forces, culminating in a series of cataclysms and finally the submergence of the remaining islands. His readings present this not just as a political struggle, but as a clash between service to others and service to self philosophies. Casey's readings describe Atlantis as a very ancient civilization with three major periods of destruction. The first around 50,000 years ago, the second around 28,000 to 24,000 years ago, and finally the third and final around 10,000 to 12,000 years ago. This period often linked to the end of the last ice age and a great flood. He frequently ties these periods to great changes in the earth, shifts in climate, geology, and human civilization, which some later writers round off as a 10,000 to 12,000 year rhythm of major upheaval. Incidentally, one such upheaval that correlates closely with this is the Younger Dryas event, which was a significant climatic event that occurred approximately 12,900 to 11,600 years ago, marked by a sudden drop in temperatures that led to a return to ice age conditions in parts of Europe and North America. Now, this is very significant. Casey also said that Atlantean souls are reincarnating now, especially in modern Western countries, to face again the same ethical challenges, use of technology, power, and psychic or spiritual abilities that led to Atlantis' fall. Commentators and esoteric writers have taken several strands from Casey and turned them into a more concrete 12,000 year cycle construct. The last destruction of Atlantis is usually dated by Casey's followers to roughly 10,000 to 12,000 years ago, roughly matching the end of the last ice age and a time of rising sea levels and global climatic disruption. Combined with references to Earth changes and planetary cycles, some interpret this as suggesting that the planet goes through roughly 11,000 to 12,000 year intervals of major transformation, during which old civilizations fall and new ones begin. In those interpretations, humanity periodically replays similar moral and spiritual tests. How we use advanced technology, how we treat one another, and whether we choose materialism or a more spiritual cooperative path. It is important to stress that this more systematic 12,000 year cycle language is usually interpretation and synthesis by later authors and teachers, rather than a single clean formula started by Casey in a specific reading. So, in our attempt to formulate the idea of reliving Atlantean experiences now, within Casey's reincarnation framework, many souls who lived in Atlantis are said to be incarnating in the modern era to heal or redo karmic patterns. So, souls who misused power or technology then may now be drawn to science, engineering, politics, finance, or psychic work, with a chance to handle similar energies more ethically. Souls who worked for spiritual ideals, often framed as children of the law of one, are described as returning to help anchor compassion, cooperation, and a sense of unity as civilization becomes more technologically powerful again. From this perspective, the reliving is mainly psychological and spiritual. Similar inner drives, temptations, and ideals resurfacing in modern form, not literal repetition of identical events. Casey's trance readings describe Atlantis as a highly advanced civilization that went through 3 major periods of destruction, often linked to misuse of crystal and earth energies. Over time, Atlantean society polarized into 2 main factions, whose choices about technology, slavery, and spiritual law set the stage for those destructions. Now here's where I would like to talk about the 2 factions. The same 2 energies are very apparent now in our modern earthly drama. These are the children of the law of one and the sons or children of Belial. The children of the law of one, from Casey's standpoint, were the spiritually oriented Atlanteans who tried to align technology and society with a sense of unity with the Creator. They emphasized a universal Creator, the oneness of all souls, and the ethical use of power in service to the whole. They opposed cruelty and the exploitation of beings Casey calls things or automatons, fully mechanic or automated beings powered by crystalline energy. They warned of coming destructions, advocated reforms, and organized migrations to places like Egypt, Yucatan, and parts of Europe when it became clear that the dominant culture would not change course. They used similar crystal and energy sciences, but sought healing, upliftment, and balance rather than domination. In the later periods, they tried to restrain or regulate the more dangerous application. Now, the children or sons of Belial. Casey paints the sons of Belial as a self-serving elite who turned the same advanced knowledge toward control, pleasure, and material power. They are described as denying or ignoring the one God, exalting self-interest, and viewing other beings as property rather than as souls. Casey links them with extreme social stratification and the maintenance of a slave class. They pushed the development of terrible crystals and devices that could tap solar and subterranean volcanic forces for warfare, population control, and global dominance. Where the law of one group saw the things as redeemable souls to be educated, the sons of Belial resisted any change that threatened their economic and power structure. Now, here comes the fall. From Casey's angle, Atlantis did not fall all at once. Each major destruction was tied to escalating conflict between these factions and the destructive misuse of natural forces. Remember, there were 3 distinct periods. In the first and second destructions, Casey associates earlier breakups of the Atlantean landmass with experimental misuse of inner earth energies and advanced weaponry, often driven by Belial-aligned policies and power struggles. Portions of the continent shattered into smaller islands, including a place called Posidia. In the final destruction, the last era, Casey attributes the terminal cataclysms to the sons of Belial's continued unrestrained use of their destructive crystal-based technology, eventually triggering immense seismic and volcanic upheaval that sank the remaining islands. The children of the Law of One are portrayed as having largely foreseen this and worked to preserve spiritual teachings and relocate those responsive to the Law of One, while the sons of Belial clung to control even as the environment destabilized. So within Casey's narrative, the fall of Atlantis looks different depending on which side is speaking. From the Law of One perspective, the fall is a tragic but lawful consequence of collective misuse of spiritual laws, an opportunity for souls to learn the cost of selfishness and return to unity through later incarnations and preserved teachings. From the Belial perspective, the fall follows a last bid for total dominance, where the risking planetary stability is preferable to relinquishing power. The same forces they believe will secure control instead destroy the civilization. All of this reflects Casey's spiritual framing. Atlantis and its factions serve as a mythic mirror for the tension between service to others and service to self in any advanced society. So given this as our framework, I would like to now discuss more contemporary insights from various awakened visionaries and literary scholars. One that I am pleased to discuss is Matías de Stefano, born in Argentina and recognized as an indigo child from an early age, who has become an influential educator of planetary consciousness. His mission is to help others awaken to their divine origins. Matías himself has direct, vivid memories of his life in Atlantis, though he provides the name as Khefu and the beginnings of Egypt known as Kem. Edgar Cayce's Atlantis story and Matías de Stefano's Kem Khefu Atlantean memories line up around a few core ideas. A highly organized initiatory civilization, a deep focus on soul evolution and reincarnation, and a gradual fall triggered by misuse of power and a split in values rather than a single event. The language and cosmology differ, but both describe Atlantis as a kind of spiritual, technological experiment that fractures when service to self motives take over parts of the leadership. Cayce's Children of the Law of One resemble a priestly initiatory current, dedicated to maintaining a spiritual law of unity and using technology within that ethic. While the children of Belial represent an elite that bends the same power toward control, pleasure, and slavery. Matías often describes Atlantis, or the Atlantean colonies like Kem, as a network of temples, councils, and castes focused on holding a planetary grid of consciousness, with multiple layers of government that eventually start to disagree on how power should be handled. Read together, Cayce's two factions map neatly onto Matías's image of different councils and lineages arguing about whether to stay aligned with the original purpose, planetary service and grid keeping, or shift toward control, conquest, and rigid hierarchy. Matías repeatedly frames Atlantis, Khefu, as a civilization consciously designed to embody cosmic principles, working with planetary grids, portals, stellar cycles and reincarnation as a known fact, with incarnated souls remembering that they are there on a mission. For Casey, the law of one group sees Atlantis as a school for souls to learn cooperation with universal laws, where technology is a tool for healing and upliftment, and the entire civilization is judged by its fidelity to those laws. Paired together, both perspectives treat Atlantis less as a lost country and more as an experiment in conscious co-creation, a culture that knew about multidimensional reality and set out to organize society around that knowledge, with different factions embodying different responses to that mission. But how did the split begin? In Casey's narrative, the split arises around how to treat things, or automatons, the mutated, modified, or less developed created beings, and around the ethical limits on crystal energy technology. The law of one seeks emancipation and safe use. The Belial side insists on exploitation and weaponization. For the children of the law of one who sensed the inevitability of Atlantis' fall and destruction, Matthias describes Atlantean leadership gradually diverging on what to do with their knowledge. Some priestly and royal lines favor sacrificing themselves for a long cycle. In other words, dying and returning 12,000 years later to safeguard evolution, while others push for immediate expansion, conquest, and visible legacy. Here's that 12,000-year cycle again. Side by side, both stories betray the same hinge. A shift from we serve a long cosmic process to we must secure power, territory, and our own continuity now, which is essentially the Belial tendency emerging inside a previously unified initiatory project. With the technology, grids, and misuse of power, Casey speaks of vast crystal-based technologies that tap earth and solar energies. Under the law of one guidance, these are healing and balancing, but while under Belial influences, they become instruments of control and ultimately trigger geological catastrophes. Matthias emphasizes grid work. Temples, megaliths, and technological structures designed to anchor and distribute consciousness, energy, and memory across the planet. With the Atlanteans understanding reincarnation and building for future cycles. A very clear example of this would be the use of pyramid technology, which was a power grid designed to generate and radiate resonant, high vibrational consciousness throughout the planet. This technology, however, later became the foundation for Belial weapons technology against what they considered adversarial factions, such as the continent of Mu, what modern-day theorists identify as Lemuria. The combined pairing suggests that Casey's terrible crystals and Matthias's energetic grids are two angles on the same infrastructure. A planetary network that can either channel consciousness and harmony or amplify disharmony and fear, depending on the intent of those who manage it. With the inevitable fall and cataclysms that ended this grand experiment, Casey's timeline describes several destructions, each linked to escalating misuse of those technologies by the Belial-aligned group, culminating in the final destructive submergence. The law of one group, however, migrates and preserves teachings in Egypt, the Americas, and elsewhere around the world. Matthias talks about cycles of rise and fall, tied to great time cycles, changes in planetary consciousness, and the consequences of Atlanteans moving from cooperation with nature to trying to secure survival through control, conquest, and fear-based decisions. Taken together, the fall of Atlantis appears as both a karmic lesson and a planned cycle. On one level, a direct consequence of egoic misuse of power. On another, a scheduled phase in a larger experiment where souls continue their journey in new lands and epochs. Casey links the children of the Law of One with priestly groups that resettle particularly in Egypt, where they embed Atlantean wisdom into temple architecture, mystery teachings, and long-range plans for future humanity. Matthias remembers Khefu and the colony of Kem, Egypt, as one of the major Atlantean colonies or expressions in the Nile region, designed explicitly as an intersection in the global network to hold knowledge through cycles and to prepare future awakenings. Casey's language, Law of One versus Belial, and Matthias's more cosmological grid and cycle narrative both ultimately point back to inner choices, whether to use one's ability in service to unity or to fear, scarcity, and control. Casey offers a clear moral polarity and karmic framing, while Matthias offers a systems-level view of grids, timelines, and soul contracts, giving context for why similar patterns repeat in different ages. On a side note, and for clarity's sake, most esoteric and historical usage treats Kemet, as a name for Egypt itself, meaning the Black Land, in reference to the fertile, dark soil of the Nile Valley, in contrast to the surrounding desert. In older or poetic English sources, Kem also appears simply as a synonym for Egypt. When Matthias de Stefano speaks of Kem in relation to Atlantis, he is effectively describing an Atlantean era phase or colony in the Nile region that later becomes known historically as Egypt, which aligns with our modern day understanding. Being a QHHT hypnosis practitioner and having facilitated a number of Atlantean-focused client regressions in my own experience, I would be remiss if I didn't speak about the literary contributions of QHHT founder Dolores Cannon and fellow QHHT practitioner and author Sarah Breskman Cosme. Dolores Cannon extensively explored Atlantis through her quantum healing hypnosis technique sessions, much like Sarah Breskman Cosme, documenting client regressions that revealed Atlantean lives, technologies, and cataclysms. Dolores' work complements the narratives from Plato, Casey, and De Stefano by emphasizing extraterrestrial influences, energy experiments gone wrong, and karmic echoes in modern times. Dolores Cannon's hypnosis sessions uncovered Atlantis as a vast, advanced civilization blending human, extraterrestrial, and multidimensional elements, often spanning longer than traditional timelines, and linked to Lemuria, Mu. Clients recalled crystal-based energy technologies, genetic experiments, and a societal split between harmonious spiritual users and power-hungry manipulators. Paralleling Casey's Law of One versus sons of Belial. She described its fall due to reckless energy harnessing, such as false Merkabas or imploding grids, that cause consciousness drops and physical disasters, with survivors seeding Egypt and other cultures. As the pioneer of QHHT, Canon's 19 books, like the Convoluted Universe series and Jesus and the Essenes, compile thousands of regressions, including Atlantean memories of portals, ET interventions, and soul volunteers returning now to prevent repeats. Her books add cosmic layers, such as starseeds volunteering post-Atlantis to aid Earth's awakening, echoing DeStefano's planned reincarnations and Casey's soul migration. Canon strengthens the unified narrative. Plato's moral hubris, Casey's cycles, and DeStefano's grids all align in her accounts of Atlantis as a pivotal fall experiment, resurfacing today amid AI, climate shifts, and polarization. Her clients often report current lives as Atlantean volunteers healing timelines, framing 2026's dramas as our collective chance to evolve beyond that shadow into higher consciousness. Sarah Brespin Cosme, a QHHT Level 3 practitioner and author, has also written a number of similar books on Atlantis, such as A Hypnotist's Journey to Atlantis, based on past life regression experiences shared by clients that she has worked with to uncover the truth about this historical time. Cosme's books, built on hypnosis regression sessions, repeatedly present clients who remember lives in Atlantis and current incarnations tied to resolving those timelines. This is parallel to Casey's own method, trance readings, DeStefano's spontaneous recall, and Canon's literary insights, providing 3 different modalities showing the same core motif of Atlantean memory surfacing now. Cosme's material often emphasizes that people are now re-encountering situations echoing their Atlantean experiences, misuse of technology, group experiments that went too far, karmic relationships from that era, and a choice between fear and control or service and love. This maps well onto Casey's idea that Atlantean souls have returned specifically to face similar inner tests and graduate from destructive patterns. And it also mirrors DeStefano's emphasis on understanding the tree of incarnations in order to stop repeating unconscious cycles. So, in the link between Atlantis, Egypt, and modern times, Cosme's regressions frequently bridge Atlantis, Egypt, now, with souls carrying knowledge forward through mystery schools and temple cultures. Casey also tied Atlantean refugees to Egypt and the building of certain monuments, and DeStefano speaks at length about Atlantean connections to Egypt and pyramid sites as part of a long-term grid pattern. In all of these narratives, there is a continuous spiritual project across epochs rather than isolated civilizations. With regard to the use of the 12,000-year idea, DeStefano explicitly mixes precessional cycles, 12,000-year remembrance windows, and long-range Atlantean planning. Casey's readings give dates that later authors approximate into 10 to 12,000 year cycles, but he does not consistently teach a single 12,000 year reincarnational schedule. Cosme is less focused on exact numbers and more on felt patterns through the same "we're back where Atlantis was" sentiments that run through the stories. Casey used a medical spiritual reading style for individuals. DeStefano speaks from waking memory and intuitive download, and Cannon and Cosme rely on hypnotic regression reports from multiple people. This affects how detailed, symbolic, or narrative each account is, even when they converge thematically. So why is all of this information relevant to our present-day drama and the inevitable spiritual transition we are all now struggling through? It's important because Atlantis emerges across ancient and modern sources not as mere myth, but as a timeless warning and blueprint for humanity's recurring dance with power, technology, and spiritual choice, urgently relevant to today's global tensions, AI revolutions, climate crisis, and polarized ideologies. Plato introduced Atlantis in Timaeus and Critias as a naval superpower flourishing 9,000 years before Solon's time, whose advanced society decayed through hubris and greed, sinking in a single day due to divine intervention. This archetype of a technologically superior civilization collapsing from moral corruption mirrors our era's struggles. Nations wielding unprecedented tech, nuclear, cyber, biotech, while grappling with inequalities, endless wars, and environmental hubris. Plato positions Atlantis as a cautionary tale for his ideal republic, urging balance between material might and virtue, echoed now as superpowers risk self-destruction through unchecked ambition. Edgar Cayce's trance readings portray Atlantis spanning 50,000 years with three destructive phases, the final one approximately 10,000 to 12,000 years ago, amid crystal tech misuse and fractional strife between children of the law of one, the spiritual harmonizers, and sons of Belial, material dominators. He claimed many Atlantean souls reincarnate today, especially in the Americas, to relive ethical tests around energy harnessing, genetic manipulation, and power dynamics, directly paralleling modern debates over AI ethics, geoengineering, and surveillance states. Cayce predicted escalating Earth changes, pole shifts, floods, intertwined with human karma, framing our world drama as a collective graduation opportunity from past cycles of abuse. Matthias de Stefano recalls Atlantis as a multi-dimensional civilization seeding global grids, pyramids, sacred sites, across approximately 24,000-year precessional cycles, with late-stage lands like Khefu near the Proto-Canary Islands fracturing in cataclysms. He describes Atlanteans planning conscious rebirths for this era to reactivate inner sciences amid outer chaos, warning a repeating downfall through ego-based disconnection from universal consciousness. In today's context, his visions correlate quantum leaps in tech, portals via CERN-like experiments, with spiritual awakening potentials, positioning current upheavals, pandemics, migrations, cosmic alignments as the scripted remembrance phase, where humanity chooses unity or fragmentation. Now, Sarah Bressman Cosme's hypnosis clients relive Atlantean lives involving crystal grids gone awry, soul pacts for karmic resolution, and migrations to Egypt's seeding mystery schools, emphasizing re-experiencing relational betrayals, tech overreach, and love versus fear polarities now. Dolores Cannon, QHHC pioneer, expands this through thousands of regressions in books like The Convoluted Universe, revealing Atlantis as a vast ET-influenced experiment with crystal energies, genetic tampering, and a societal split mirroring Casey's fractions. It's all from reckless Merkaba-like technology implosions seeding survivors into Egypt and beyond, with starseed volunteers incarnating today to heal timelines. Both practitioners underscore the personal psychological layer. Leaders replaying power abuses while awakening souls resolve collective shadows. These voices, Plato's structural caution, Casey's karmic cycles, DeStefano's cosmic grids, and QHHT's personal cosmic echoes from Cosmian canon, converge on Atlantis as humanity's shadow self resurfacing. Advanced tools amplifying inner divides, cyclic upheavals, forcing evolution, and things of that nature. This now, post-12,000-year echo, demands us as spiritual beings having a modern-day human experience to choose cooperation over control amid tech-sparked crises. The awakened understanding resolves. Atlantis is not lost history. It is our living script, urging transcendence to birth a sustainable golden age of enlightenment and awakening from the potential repeat of low vibrational destruction back into the ashes. So as I have often asked, what do you choose? The light or the dark? The service to self or service to others? Our choices will inevitably decide our dual course and our respective timelines. We'll be talking more about these and other topics in future installments. And if there is anything that you would like me to discuss, or questions you may have about anything that I have shared, please feel free to mention it by leaving a question or a comment in the comments section. As always, if you have found any of this information at all helpful or enlightening, please like, subscribe, and share with others. As I continue to see new people coming to this space, I truly appreciate those of you who are letting others know about this, and I am so excited to see more and more souls awakening to this ongoing movement to a oneness consciousness. So in parting, I send you my love. And if we are one, let's all live in peace, love, and joy.